My name is Riley Morgan, and according to my parents, I was born capable. What they meant was, you're on your own. I was the one who knew how to fix things, how to self-soothe, self-fund, self-disappear. While Ethan, their golden boy, was still learning how to set up voicemail. They called me independent, but what they really meant was expendable. I never got the gold-trimmed parties, never the late-night check-ins, the whispered, "We're proud of you." No tents in the backyard, just Olive Garden and a half-charged hug. But I stayed quiet, measured, useful. Until the night my brother totaled a Tesla and handed me the keys to the blame. Not out of panic, out of habit. Because in this family, Riley did it was always the easiest answer. But this time, I came prepared. Not with apologies, not with tears, with data, with timestamps, with the truth. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, not because they believed it, but because it was easier than facing who actually did, stay. This is for the ones who keep the receipts. Because when the lies come crashing down, the quiet ones don't break. They prove. The mansion smelled like champagne and sugar polish. I stood outside, just under the eaves, watching 3 staff members try to center a gold-trimmed tent on the back lawn. They weren't getting it right. One corner kept slumping, but no one asked me to help. I wasn't surprised. Inside, my mother's voice rang out with instructions. Use the Waterford glasses for the toast, not the Baccarat. Dad was probably tweaking the playlist as if jazz needed curating. And Ethan? Ethan was probably still asleep. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, arms crossed, eyes scanning the coordinated chaos that had become the norm whenever it was about him. Ethan's graduation was 2 days away, but the celebration had started a week in advance. Caterers, florists, a live band, a white tent that probably cost more than my first year of tuition. I was here early to help, not that anyone noticed. Riley, you're just standing there? My mother's voice cut through the late spring breeze like a blade. She wasn't looking for an answer, just confirming I'd shown up. I just got here, I replied. Calm, measured, always measured. Then maybe check on the table settings. We're still waiting for the linens. And remind the servers, Ethan doesn't eat shellfish. Of course he doesn't. He also doesn't book flights, carry cash, or know how to reset a Wi-Fi router. But he's trying. And apparently that's enough to justify a tent that looks like a wedding canopy. Logan arrived an hour later, sliding into the kitchen like he belonged there, which he did more than I ever had. He pressed a hand to my lower back and whispered, "You okay?" I gave him a small smile. Define okay. He didn't push. That's why I loved him. He just poured 2 glasses of sparkling water and passed one to me. Across the room, Janice was showing a server where to set down a towering cake topped with what looked like gold leaf. I turned to Logan. Did you know my graduation dinner was at Olive Garden? He raised a brow. True story, I had a scholarship. Graduated early, summa cum laude. Dad took a call halfway through dinner and said, "Let's not make a big fuss." Logan stared toward the tent. And this isn't a fuss? Oh, this? I took a sip. This is tradition. This is support. This is Ethan's chance to step into the professional world the right way. They're words. He looked at me but didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The silence between us said enough. Later that afternoon, I found myself in the foyer folding napkins because no one had assigned me anything, but I couldn't just stand still. My hands worked out of instinct, something they'd learned over the years. Occupy. Contribute. Disappear. Janice walked by and frowned. Riley, you don't need to... Well, if you're doing that, be sure to fold them with the logo facing up. Of course. In the evening, Charles called Ethan into the study. I followed, lingering by the doorway, unseen but not unheard. This is your moment, my father said. Your first step into the world your sister's been trying to navigate alone. But you? You'll have support. Ethan grinned like he'd earned that support, Like he hadn't skated through college with late-night calls to dad and last-minute edits from mom. My diploma had come with a job search and a bus pass. "Just don't mess it up," Charles added with a laugh that wasn't really a joke. I backed away before they saw me. That night, Logan and I stood under the dim porch light. The tent glowed in the yard, soft golden lighting casting everything in a dreamlike haze. From this angle, you could almost believe something magical was happening. "I don't get jealous," I told him quietly. "You shouldn't," he said, "because none of this is real." I nodded but didn't say anything. A familiar weight sat on my chest. Not grief, not even resentment, but something deeper. A recognition. A knowing. As we walked back in, Ethan appeared in the hallway and caught my eye. He smirked, leaning in just enough to murmur, "Hope you don't get jealous when you see the real surprise." Riley nodded, smiling slightly. But inside, the simmering waves have begun to move. The Tesla was worth more than my entire college education, first apartment, and a decade of silence combined. And somehow, I still became the villain when it crashed. Sunlight bounced off the polished hood like it knew it was the center of the universe. Metallic red, gleaming under the June sky, parked in the middle of the circular driveway as if the party had been built around it. Which, to be fair, it had. "Ethan, turn around. Smile," my mom squealed. My dad patted Ethan on the back like he'd just solved world hunger, not barely scraped through a communications degree. I stood to the side, frosting smudged on my palm from carrying the top layer of the cake out for display. Nobody noticed. I was just part of the furniture again. Moving, useful, invisible. Ethan ripped the bow off with one dramatic tug, tossing it toward the lawn like a victorious gladiator. The crowd laughed. Cameras clicked. Logan stood behind me, arms crossed. "Is it just me?" he whispered. "Or is this party one trust fund announcement away from a reality show?" I gave a small snort, more breath than sound. "This was supposed to be a surprise," Janice said, beaming. "We wanted Ethan to have something aspirational." Aspirational? I'd spent 3 years saving to replace the secondhand Honda I still drove. But sure, give the golden boy a Tesla. I turned to adjust the cake tray, my face blank. As the afternoon melted into evening, guests began to trickle out, murmuring praise and wrapping up leftovers in napkins they pretended not to pocket. The music died down. Ethan disappeared sometime around 9 p.m. "He said he's going to meet some friends," Dad noted, already pouring himself a nightcap. "He's earned it." I stayed behind to help the staff stack chairs and load boxes. Logan offered, but I told him to go home. I needed the solitude. Around midnight, I finally sat down on the back porch, letting the silence soak into my skin like salve. At 2:17 a.m., my phone rang. "Mom." My thumb hovered before I answered. "Hello?" Her voice was taut. "Ethan was in an accident. The car is totaled. We need to talk." For a moment, my mind flatlined. "He's okay?" "He's at the hospital. Come now." The drive was a blur. Stoplights, empty streets, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I arrived, Logan was already in the lobby. Somehow, he'd heard through a friend. He met my eyes, worry etched into his features. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said. Inside, Ethan lounged on the hospital bed like he'd twisted an ankle at a football game. His hair was tousled just enough to look tragic. His friends sat around, murmuring, one of them scrolling through a phone. "You made it," Ethan said, then looked straight at our parents. "By the way, I let Riley borrow the car earlier. Just for a bit. She said the steering felt loose." Every head turned. Janice's voice was cold. "Riley? You drove the Tesla?" My throat closed. "What? Number I never—" "She just took it around the block," Ethan added casually, eyes never leaving mine. "Said something didn't feel right." I stared at him. He didn't blink. He didn't smirk. He played it like a violinist on opening night, smooth, unshakable. "If you damage the steering," Janice said, her tone clipped, "we need to know now. The insurance won't cover pre-existing issues." I opened my mouth, then closed it. My heart pounded in my ears. Charles looked at me, not angry, just assessing, like he was reviewing a client file. "You know I didn't," I said finally. "But you did touch the car?" he asked. "Maybe moved it to help with setup?" I didn't. They didn't nod. They didn't look relieved. They just paused, like actors waiting for the next line in a script they'd already rehearsed. Logan stepped forward. "Riley was with me the whole afternoon." No one acknowledged him. I took out my phone. Beneath the hospital's sickly overhead lights, I opened the Notes app and typed, June 1st, 2024, 2:36 a.m. Ethan claims I drove Tesla. I did not. Janice implies insurance won't cover if I damaged it. Logan present. No one believed him. No one asked me directly. I hit save. My thumb trembled. They had decided on the script before I even entered the room. You know what's worse than being blamed for something you didn't do? Watching your whole family act like they always knew you would. By Monday morning, the storm had already started. My inbox was a battlefield of polite accusations. Emails with subject lines like, "quick clarification" and "about the incident." All loaded with suspicion, cloaked in concern. My phone buzzed with calls from unknown numbers. I let most of them go to voicemail. At 10:14 a.m., Karen, my mom's second cousin from Oregon, left a message that started with, "Sweetie, I know how much pressure you've always been under," and ended with, "I just hope you do the right thing and apologize." I stared at the screen, expressionless. Apologize. For what? At 11:42 a.m., Logan walked into my office, 2 coffees in hand and worry etched into every step. "I brought caffeine and legal sanity," he said, placing the cup on my desk. "Great. Do you have a third cup labeled erasing my family?" He didn't laugh. Neither did I. I clicked through the email Charles had forwarded from the family's insurance adjuster. It included a vague, ominous line. "Since Riley has a history of operating family vehicles without prior approval, our liability position may be affected." I almost crushed the paper in my fist. "They're setting it up," Logan said quietly. "Framing it like you've always been the problem." I didn't respond, but I felt it. Deep, cold, rising. Ethan had done this before. When I was 10, he broke our dad's vintage camera. I had touched it that morning, admired the dials. Later that night, it lay shattered on the floor. Ethan cried. I was grounded for 3 weeks. When I protested, Dad said, "It's her word against yours." It still was. Logan leaned against the wall. "If you're sure you didn't touch that car, we have a way." My voice was low. "I didn't. I swear to God, Logan, I never even sat in it." "Then let's prove it." By 2 p.m., we were sitting across from Danielle Cooper, a litigation attorney with eyes sharp enough to slice steel. Her office was lined with books, awards, and the faint smell of espresso and war. She listened. No interruptions. Just a legal pad and steady scribbles as I laid it all out. The party, the accident, the moment Ethan lied. When I finished, she flipped the pen once between her fingers. "They're not just blaming you. They're insulating him." My mouth went dry. "So what can I do?" "Let the Tesla tell the story." I blinked. "What?" "Tesla logs everything. Driver profiles, entry, acceleration, even phone connections. If you never drove it, the data will prove it." It was so simple it sounded ridiculous. "But they said they had footage of me driving it," I said. Danielle smiled without humor. "Then they won't mind if we subpoena it." We sat in silence for a beat. Logan reached for my hand. I let him. "I need the VIN," I murmured. "You'll find it on the insurance paperwork," Danielle said. "Ask politely. If they refuse, I'll file a motion." Back at home, I dug through my emails. The original Tesla receipt had been forwarded to the family group chat weeks ago. Ethan had bragged about it endlessly. I found it. There it was. VIN, number 5YJSA, 1E4, 5PF123456. I forwarded it to Danielle, then turned to Logan, the numbness in my limbs slowly fading to something else. Something sharp. Electrified. "I'm not doing this for them," I said, voice low but certain. "I'm doing it for the truth." He didn't answer right away. Just squeezed my hand. Then we fight. Not for them. For the truth. The Tesla kept a better record of my truth than my own parents ever did. Danielle tapped her keyboard like she was unlocking a vault. The law office was quiet except for the low hum of her monitor and the occasional drip of rain against the window. Logan sat beside me, his leg bouncing under the table. "Tesla's data privacy policy is airtight," Danielle said, eyes scanning the screen. "But the moment you're accused, you gain legal grounds to request access. And since they filed you as a liability risk..." She leaned back. "You're in." I nodded slowly, my stomach folding in on itself. This was it. Cold evidence, no family dinners, no gaslighting, no maybe you misremembered. Just the machine and its memory. Danielle clicked again. A secure portal opened. She entered the VIN and my name. The screen pulsed, then loaded a dashboard that looked deceptively clean. Tabs for activity logs, voice commands, GPS history. "I'll get the raw data converted into a readable file," she murmured, dialing an internal extension. "But this is where we see what really happened." 15 minutes later, a young technician appeared with a tablet in hand. He wore wireframe glasses and a NASA hoodie, and he looked far too calm for someone holding a bomb. "Ms. Morgan," he said with a polite nod. "We pulled up June 1st, from 7 a.m. to midnight." He handed the tablet to Danielle, who scrolled, then paused. "Only one user profile accessed the vehicle," she said. "Name, Ethan Morgan. Logged in via smartphone at 7:32 p.m. Doors unlocked at 7:33. Engine started at 7:35. She flicked her finger across the screen. No other logins, no manual overrides, no key fob activity from any secondary profile. The passenger doors weren't opened until 7:37, when he picked up his friends. I stared at the screen. I didn't even know the car had that kind of memory. It remembered who touched it and when. More than my family ever had. Danielle kept scrolling. "There's audio," she added, "from the cabin mic." She tapped play. The first sound was a voice command. "Play Travis Scott." Loud. Then a second later, "Text Logan, out with the boys tonight, tell Riley to chill." Logan's eyes widened. I clenched my jaw. The audio continued. Shouts, laughter, the sound of cans opening, someone yelling, "Floor it, bro." Then screeching tires. A hard jolt. Danielle turned the volume down and looked at me. "No mention of you. Not a whisper." The technician cleared his throat. "This was all stored automatically. Tesla doesn't delete crash data unless the owner purges the system manually, which Ethan didn't do. We pulled the full diagnostics." I let out a slow, shallow breath. My body didn't know whether to cry or scream. Danielle placed the tablet on the desk. "We have everything. Entry logs, command logs, location tags, crash impact metrics. No physical or digital trace of you." "Then let's show them," I said, the words emerging before I had time to measure them. "Let's play it." Danielle's brows lifted. "Are you sure?" "They made this public," I said. "They told relatives. Spread rumors. Treated me like a liability, so let's make it public." Logan leaned forward, cautious. "What if you showed your dad privately first?" I shook my head. Firm. He watched it happen. He believed Ethan. He let it sit. Danielle's lips curled ever so slightly. "Then we pick a date." I didn't hesitate. "Father's Day." For a moment, silence. Even the rain outside had slowed. Danielle smiled. Then let's make it Father's Day. Later that evening, I sat at my desk, reviewing the footage one more time. Then I opened my camera app and quietly hit record, positioning the lens toward the spot where my father always sat at the head of the table. Let the truth speak. Let them all hear it. I used to beg for their attention. This time, I brought a speaker, a lawyer, and the truth. The mansion looked exactly as it had 2 weeks ago. Immaculate hedges, valet in black gloves, champagne glasses already sweating on silver trays. But today, the air was heavier. A different kind of celebration. Father's Day, they called it. I called it judgment. We parked 2 houses down. Logan glanced over at me. You ready? I've been ready since the night they decided I was guilty before I even spoke. He reached into the back seat and handed me the small black Bluetooth speaker, already synced. Danielle had insisted on clarity. She'd tested the audio 5 times. I had the file queued and the battery fully charged. We walked in 10 minutes late. No one expected us. I liked that. Aunt Karen blinked when she saw me. Uncle Roy's smile faltered mid-sip. The whispers started in under 30 seconds. Janice noticed first, her eyes narrowing as she whispered something to Charles. He turned, jaw stiff, polite smile pasted in place. Riley, you didn't RSVP. I figured you'd appreciate a surprise, I said, stepping further into the room. Danielle emerged from the hallway. Black blazer, red lips, no apologies. Shall we? She asked quietly. We moved to the center of the room. Conversations died. Logan placed the speaker on the coffee table. Danielle adjusted the volume. Everyone, she said, her voice calm but commanding. Thank you for making time this Father's Day. Before the toast, we'd like to play something short. It concerns an incident from June 1st. I believe most of you heard about the Tesla crash. A rustle of nods, sideways glances, a clearing of throats. Danielle pressed play. The room filled with music. Booming bass, then Ethan's unmistakable voice. Text Logan. Out with the boys tonight, tell Riley to chill. Laughter, cans opening, tires screeching. Floor it, bro. Then the jarring thud. Silence. Next, Danielle opened her folder. Vehicle access logs show the car was unlocked at 10:17 p.m., June 1st. Accessed by Ethan Morgan's phone. No other key fob or profile connected to the vehicle that day. Riley Morgan was never inside the car. She paused, letting that land. Furthermore, she added, lifting her gaze to Charles and Janice, this data has been submitted to the Morgan family's insurance provider, along with the footage of Mr. Ethan Morgan's public claim that Riley had previously driven the car and may have loosened the steering. Janice whispered, No way. Charles was pale. Ethan? Silent. I stood up, my voice steady. You told people I was reckless, a liar, insurance fraud. I looked at each of them, my mother's trembling lips, my father's clenched jaw, Ethan's eyes fixed on the floor. So tell them now, I said. What am I? No one answered. Danielle looked around. By the way, this was also submitted to your insurance provider, along with the footage of Ethan's false claim. Someone gasped. Aunt Karen whispered, Riley saved herself. Charles said nothing. Janice, God bless her, teared up. But still no apology. I stood there, not needing one, because this time I hadn't asked for their permission. This time I brought the truth. And I let it speak for me. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. And that was far more terrifying to them. The sun was bleeding through the blinds of my small apartment, warming the boxes stacked near the door. Logan stood near the bookshelf, holding 2 coffee mugs, one cracked, one pristine. You're really leaving this place, he said. I nodded, folding the last of my sweaters. It's not big enough for who I'm becoming. Danielle's voice came through the speakerphone, crisp as always. Good news. The insurance company has officially removed your name from all incident reports. Ethan's under internal investigation now. Likely fraud charges. I said nothing for a moment, just breathed. You're clear, Riley. You can walk away. She hung up, no extra words. She knew I didn't need them. Logan leaned against the kitchen counter. Are you going no contact? I looked at him, not even hesitating. They went no conscience years ago. I'm just catching up. He gave a soft laugh, sad, but approving. That's one way to phrase it. The door creaked slightly as the draft pushed against it. A padded envelope lay inside the mail slot. Cream paper, familiar handwriting. My mother's. Riley, can we talk? I stared at it for 5 full seconds, then set it on the counter without opening it. Some things don't deserve answers. Instead, I grabbed the folder labeled Project Aurora, my new beginning. Inside, contracts, a website launch plan, a mission statement. Supporting victims of family manipulation through legal guidance, therapy access, and public awareness. I slid the USB into my laptop and clicked Launch. The screen blinked once, then lit up with the homepage. You are not the problem. It was plain, minimalist. Just bold letters, a few links, a helpline. It was everything I never had. And now it was everything someone else might need. As I stared at the page, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered. A girl's voice. Shaky but brave. Is this Riley Morgan? I saw what you did. Can I ask for help? My hand tightened slightly around the phone. My voice, when it came, was steady. Yes, you can. They once called her capable, but what they really meant was expendable. In the end, it wasn't rage that brought Riley justice. It was precision, patience, and the refusal to stay silent. Justice doesn't always roar into a courtroom. Sometimes it speaks softly through timestamps, data logs, and the quiet resolve of someone who's had enough. Like the hum of a Tesla before a crash, truth often comes without warning. But once it hits, it leaves no room for doubt. And when lies crumble, what remains isn't just vindication, it's freedom. No wall of lies can stand forever against the tide of truth.